No.
Doug Hausman. Here. Kenny Marlett.
Here.
Brandon McCord. Here. Dave Moore.
Here.
Matt Smith.
Here.
I need a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Community forum. Anybody here this evening like to speak at community forum? Besides Peter. Okay, we'll move on to approval of minutes.
I'll make a motion.
Motion seconded to approve minutes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Does anyone have any questions for Kenna this month for the bills? If not, I'll ask for a motion to approve the bills for payment. Moved and seconded to approve bills for payment. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Financial report this month: $4,413,738.67. Need a motion to approve the financial report.
So moved.
Moved and seconded to approve the financial report. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Administrative reports. Mike, you're up first.
All right, my report is in front of you. The first thing I have on there is plans for graduation. Hard to believe we need to start thinking about that already, but it is May 22nd, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I believe the plan is to be in the practice gym in the comfortable air conditioning. So, all right. Summer lunch. I need to make an update here because I talked to Amanda this afternoon, and she's been able to get some clarification from the state. For the month of June, we will be able to do summer lunch grab and go like we have the last couple summers. Our current application will take us through June, so they're working out a plan for that. After June, though, we are back to you have to be in person. And so their plan is when summer school is in session in August, they'll figure out something to feed those kids. But the traditional grab and go that we have done in the era of COVID is coming to an end once June is over. Legislative session, we're almost done, but there are still a couple things that are out there. Vouchers are not dead yet. There's some resistance to this in the House. The Senate is holding firm on it, and right now there isn't a whole lot of movement that I'm aware of. They've tried to sweeten the pot by throwing in some benefits to rural schools and looking at operational sharing. But everything that I've read still says it's kind of hung up in the House. So we'll see if they're able to resolve any of that. Transparency, this has been one of Governor Reynolds' flagpole issues. The goofy parts of the transparency bills have been removed. The idea that you have to post your lesson plans for a year in advance, I mean, that's ridiculous. That's gone. Things that are still in there is that districts are going to have to post what textbooks you use, what standards you address, and any other materials you use that are, as it says, published primarily for the sake of instruction. Which means if you're buying something from a company, yes, you need to make sure parents are aware of that. But if you're talking about a teachable moment that comes up in the classroom, you can still do that, even though you haven't published that information. It doesn't tie people's hands that way. We're more than likely going to have to post the titles of our books in our school libraries. Okay. We need to have a process for parents to request that materials be removed. You already have that in board policy, so that's not an issue. There's also language out there that parents would be enabled to say, I don't want my child to be able to check this title out of the library. Okay. I don't see a problem with that. It's much better than the original language which said, I'm going to take this book out of the library so no kid gets to read it. You know, if I don't want my kid to read it, they're not allowed to check it out. Much better than what previous language was. I've included Senator Goodwin and Representative Kerr's contact information on there. The session is coming to a close, so chances are any lobbying efforts are done by now. But as always, I think it's good to reach out to them, especially when the session is over. Thank them for the work that they did, even if you might not agree with everything that they did. It's still kind of a thankless job, I think. My schedule, I've got a couple meetings coming up, as you can see there. If you flip it over, our student count on Power School this morning ticked up another student. So it's a trend I like to see, and I hope it continues.
Any questions for Mike? Thank you.
Yep.
Michelle, you're up next.
So between March and April here, we've had, track has started, golf has started, and soccer has started. We've had 3 track meets now at home. And they've gone from really nice to really windy. So far, we haven't had any rain, so that's hopefully will hold for us. Soccer has started, golf has had a couple meets as well. Music hosted their dinner theater. This is the time of year when a lot of the festivals are happening, the select festivals are happening, and the Florida trip left this morning for Florida finally after 2 years of being postponed. One big thing maybe to draw your eye to is the wrestling. The Iowa High School Girls Athletic Association sanctioned girls wrestling as a state-sponsored sport back in January. There's a discussion for that later on in the board packet. That's really all that's coming up. Prom will be coming up. The spring gets really busy, but that's okay. We'll muster through. So some things to consider for you going forward is to add paid assistant for volleyball and then for wrestling, for that girls wrestling position, as well as a paid position of some sort for esports. So kind of just put that in your brain for later conversation. And then again, later on will be the conversation for sanctioning girls sports, or excuse me, girls wrestling here at Wapello for next year. And then there is an evening meeting that I'll be attending next Wednesday, the 20th, in Mount Pleasant.
Any questions for Michelle? Okay, thank you, Michelle. Steve, you're up next.
Okay, start off with students of the month. I know Kelsey's here. Come on up here, Kelsey.
Sorry, I thought you were talking to me. I didn't see Kelsey over there. I'm so sorry.
Never spelling though. Kelsey's freshman year at Wapello, and she was nominated by Mrs. Edwards. So congratulations on that. So pizza party tomorrow. Congratulations. You don't have to stick around for the rest of the meeting.
Okay,
Watch your lead.
Thank you.
Some things that have happened last few days and are going to happen here in the next few days and weeks. Last week, Mr. Dunham and Mr. Marshall took 17 students down to the 5th annual Southeast Iowa Trades Expo on April 6th, and that's sponsored once again by the Iowa Army National Guard. That's been a great experience for our kids to go down there. They have a lot of different corporations, unions that kids can sit down and talk to and look for prospective job opportunities. And then this week, on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, Mrs. Chapman took some students to the State FFA Leadership Conference, and they performed there in some contests, and they did very well. Just to give you an idea, they had a chapter display that received a gold. They placed 3rd out of 137 entries. Their farm business management team received a gold. They were 9th place out of 100 teams. Zach Harbison was 11th out of 367 students. Ashton Slate was 33rd out of 367 students, and Jackson Land was 52nd out of 367 students. Also, Ashton Slayton had the opportunity to perform with the FFA band, and Katie Arrington and Dakota Boleen also performed with the FFA choir while they were there. And Dakota Boleen received his Iowa degree, and Christopher Ewart, who was a graduate last year, he's going to DMAC this year. Christopher's vegetable production proficiency received 1st place. And last but not least, Keelan Griffin and Katie Arrington also participated in the Green Hand Quiz. So some great learning opportunities for those individuals who went there as well. And then today, Mr. Dunham took 9 students on a field trip to Des Moines. I kind of briefly talked about that last month. This was sponsored by the AEA, and they took a bus from SCC and went to Des Moines. It was once again, it was an opportunity to meet with different corporations and learn about the job market for the future. Hometown Day is scheduled for next Wednesday, April 20th. If there's rain that day, the tentative rain date is scheduled for April 27th, the following week. And we already have a number of people who called in, and take care of those individuals, yard work and so forth. Then April 26th, Mrs. Kerr is going to take some sixth graders on a math beat. That's sponsored by the AEA. Team members are Elizabeth Parson, Ray King, Lorraine Schultz, Grayson Nagel, and Emily Tips. And then baccalaureate is back on our schedule. It's been off for a couple years because of COVID. That is scheduled for Sunday, May 15th, and that's at Solid Rock Baptist Church. Will be hosting that at 7 o'clock. And then also, Senior Awards Night is going to be scheduled for that Wednesday before graduation, May 18th at 7 o'clock. And that will be in the high school auditorium as well. So, that's it.
Steve, it's at 7?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any questions for Steve? Thank you. Brett, you're up next.
All right, a few things we've been doing, ISAP, testing wrapped up for third through fifth graders. We finished up our final student today. Tested over 4 days last week, and as always, anxious to see what kind of results we get back for scores. There's another new test this year as far as it being adaptive in a couple of the areas, math and science. So as the students answer questions, depending on how they do, the questions change. So that's something new this year. Professional development, last week we heard some things about character strong curriculum for social emotional learning. The elementary version of this is purposeful people. It was a good presentation. We had some good discussion, and that's coming up later as well in the packet. PD with PLCs, we're working on planning and mapping out next year, looking at any changes we need to make with curriculum based on how kids are doing, things we need to get to spend more time on or less time on. So those conversations will be happening the rest of the way through the year, going into next year, especially in reading and math and also social studies. Upcoming events, summer school planning. Right now, we have all the invitations out to our first wave of students, the highest need kids. They went out with report cards. We're up to, we invited about 95 kids. We've gotten about 33 back as of this afternoon. 50 is where we typically end up each year, about 50 kids, so we're getting there. We'll send out some more invitations for some of our bubble kids if we aren't getting the numbers that we need for that. So next month, I'll be asking the board to hire summer school teachers based on our final number. And pre-K roundup is coming up April 22nd. So a week from Friday. And we'll introduce them to the school, the teachers, the classrooms, and get to know a little bit more about the kids and get them in the building again. So I think we have about 25 kids signed up right now, and we added more the last couple of days that keep trickling in. So I think that number will grow, especially when we get to registration time. That's all I have right now.
All right, any questions for Brett?
Brett, do you think that we may need to do additional summer schooling on different dates using ESSER money? That's one of our thoughts, and it's one of our teachers presented that.
I think it's a possibility.
Okay.
I think it would be something where we would need to gather some information from a sample of the parents and from the students and see if there's an interest there.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Brett. Rich, you're up next.
All right, gentlemen, I'm pretty boring here, but high school staff break room floor, that's a wood subfloor above the concrete there, needs to be replaced. We got some speed bumps going in there and needs to be addressed, so I'm gonna be looking for some contractors here real soon, get some bids, and then I should have something prepared for next board meeting. We'll have to, already prepared the cleaning crew. We're gonna empty that room out here as soon as school cuts out. If you get a chance to stop by, you'll know what I'm talking about. Get hurt on your way to the drinking fountain though. But no, it's a high humidity area because, as you know, on the exterior of the high school, that's our steam system tunnel. And we did spring, it wasn't a steam leak. I was actually trying to chase one down. I actually found just a drain pipe leak down there. but the extra humidity didn't help matters at all. But I think it's just been an ongoing issue over the years, and whoever I bring in will have to come up with something that, as a subfloor, will be more permanent and won't be subject to break, to swelling up and breaking in the future. Continuing light bulb replacement for LEDs, finding them all over the place. My latest adventure has been in the weight room. We got some old bulbs in there that was starting to get pretty dim, and Parsons was wondering, why is it starting to look like a cave in here? Well, we're getting brightened up for him there. And then time of the year with the prom around the corner, I got all the parts located for the auditorium great ramp setup. And unlike last year, I got all the hardware from when I tore the ramp down, and I have hid it in a nice safe place, so I know where it's all at. And I have a detailed list of what goes where, just in case something happens to me between then and now and then. So anyways.
We'll find it.
But that's coming up around the 25th, I believe. And then, as usual, just a continued daily maintenance request and issues that I have going on at the buildings. That's what I got.
Any questions for Rich?
We ever get any more info on the tractor? Did it come, not come yet?
The front blade was the only thing that he said was sent, and that's all Dean knows for the time being. And here momentarily, when we get to item 9A, 1, 2, and 3, I can address some thoughts and issues that probably will come up for that. So.
Okay. Any other questions for Rich? All right, thank you.
All right.
Shannon?
Brett talked about ISAS testing that took place at the elementary building. We did that the week before at the secondary building from March 28th to April 1st. We worked on makeups the following week and this week. I have one student on my radar to get finished testing. Hopefully we see him tomorrow so I can get that taken care of. Elementary testing was April 5th through the 8th, and we completed the last makeup today, so the elementary building is 100% done. We hope to have some results back late May, but realize that it could be fall. I've had several elementary kids ask me in the hallway, do you know how I did on my test yet? So I think they're excited to see them too. Senior Wellness Wednesday took place on March 30th. We had the seniors go through sessions that covered teen mental health first aid, which we did with our sophomores previously. So now sophomores, juniors, and seniors in the building have all had that training with Shelley Bozic from the AEA. Ms. Akins led a senior readiness session, walked them through some things to help get them prepared for life after their time at WHS. And Officer Cody talked about the dangers of vaping. We had pizza for all of them together afterwards, and then we kind of talked about their day a little bit. Even though we just finished ISAS testing, we do have one more round of spring testing with our FAST and iReady, and that'll take place April 25th through May 6th. We'll be FAST testing in reading and math, and that'll be students in K through 8. We'll go through that. Sabres and My Sabres, which if you remember is the social emotional screener, that will be K-12, and it'll be at the same time, April 25th through May 6th. iReady, which is a math assessment, will take place at the elementary, same time frame, April 25th through May 6th. And then we will map test one more time at the secondary building, 6 through 12, and we'll do that May 10th, 12th, and 13th.
All right, any questions for Shannon?
On the ISASP, I mean, here we are mid-April. I mean, that seems ridiculous, not getting results back till fall. So what's the deal? I mean, how, if we see, I mean, we were doing it so that we can identify areas that kids need to improve on, right? Is it the state, or what's the holdup there?
Yeah, that is too. It's the state. The actual testing, I mean, the state can test up until May sometime. And so I think that's part of it. The ELA test has like a language test where like we do read a passage and you could make changes to it and whatnot, punctuation, spelling, that kind of stuff. And there's also a writing component where they had a writing prompt that they had to answer, so somebody's gonna read through all of those. So that takes a little bit longer, but otherwise I think it's just the mass, not the whole state doing it at the same time.
Okay. What is that historically how long it's taken?
For this version, yes.
Yes. in the past, they used to have their fall testing window in the spring, and so that kind of spread it out a little bit, but now everybody goes sometime from like March 14th to the first part of May. So we're all at the same time.
And it's a huge frustration.
Very much so.
That just seems ridiculous to me.
Any other questions for Shannon? Thank you. Okay, moving on to personnel. We have some hires. Rich, do you want to package these first three together, or how do you?
I think you probably could. But Rich, you wanted to talk about the summer custodial help a bit?
You bet. I'll give you a little bit of an overview here because our idea that I grew up with of summer being 12 weeks of an empty building and fun in the sun and vacation time and all that no longer exists as is. I did a little bit of a breakdown of what a summertime looks like for us. We're basically 12 weeks of a total of 468 hours to get the work done. I observed last year, for example, in June was third floor of the high school in the old building and then worked its way down to the first level and then cutting into part of the new. That's, I guess, junior, I call it the junior high area, but part of the new building. Then when July rolls around, they break away from there and dedicate July to the elementary building with the idea to start to finish when they hit elementary. Once they're done there in July, then they return in August to finish what was left in the high school, to get the final touches ready to prepare to open for the school year. There's also a rodeo queen pageant that is thrown in there. They've also go out to the football complex, track area, clean out the buildings in there, and then also head over and do the top floor of the food pantry building where we keep all the food in there to strip the floor and re-wax it. So in addition to the areas that they cover there, we also work around the 4 weeks of summer school. So that kind of takes, as you're moving things around, they have to plan. You can't close both stairwells down or certain areas have to remain open. During the 4 weeks of summer school, our cafeteria or kitchen in the elementary is also open, so tables and trash. I have to break somebody away during that time, during the summer to make sure they tend to the cleaning of those areas. It got a little bit out of hand last year. We kind of neglected that, but they've got the heads up on that. We've got deliveries to be distributed and stored, some room painting, and then there's also the vacations. We have several in the crew that usually take at least 1 week off per month to accommodate some vacation time in the summer. And then I plan on pulling one person at least on one project that I have that's outdoors for a few days to take care of some stuff outside. The extra hand will be much needed. And so I give you all of this because it's a kind of a better picture of what we use these three individuals for. And then we would rather be a little bit ahead coming into August, because that way, if we're a little bit slower the week before school starts, we know we got everything ready to go, versus the day before school and it's like we haven't done 2 or 3 rooms or we've missed an entire floor. That would not be good. So we always try to look at staying a little bit ahead if we can, and then we accommodate everything else to go with it. So that kind of gives you a general picture of what we have, not only our basic crew that we have, but then we pick up 3 additional high school kids. And they really seem to be enjoying being there to work.
And now Ryan and Kainoa would be returning.
Yes.
But Cooper would be a new hire.
Yes, Cooper would be new. And I know his parents, so he's going to be on his best behavior. So.
Well, if not, all it takes is a phone call.
Yeah.
Okay. And I had asked Rich to prepare some information for you, because in the past, board members have questioned, are these people really needed in the summer? So I gave Rich a heads up and said, maybe answer some questions ahead of time, and he'll answer any other questions you have too, I'm sure.
Sure, it was 3 what we did last year as well.
Yes.
And anybody's got any other questions, otherwise I'll look for a motion to approve. Alright, we can do them all three together if you want us to pick out each one individually, we can do that as well.
I'll make a motion that we hire the summer help, custodial help, all three of them.
Second.
Motion and seconded to hire Ryan McDonough, summer custodial, Kainoa Sumana. I knew I'd butcher that, sorry.
That's okay.
And Cooper Garrison, summer custodial, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion passes. Item 4, Melissa Main, math intervention.
All right, Melissa has worked for us this year. She is a 90% contract. That gives her a tiny sliver of time to take care of the multitude of other businesses that she and Sean have in town. I think it is unanimous that Melissa is a huge asset to the district. We have the opportunity to keep her using ESSER funds. We would strongly recommend that we keep her on staff next year for the same amount, 90%.
Motion to hire Melissa Main, math intervention.
Second.
Motion and seconded to hire Melissa Main, math intervention, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion passes. Item 5, Brandon Brown, activities director.
All right, I can talk a little bit about this. Steve and Kenny and I interviewed Brandon about the activities director position. We all feel like he has the skills and the enthusiasm and the ability to do an excellent job with it. He and I have met multiple times already with plans for next year and working through the transition. We feel confident that he would do a good job. Okay, Kenny, Steve, anything you want to add for that? Okay. Brandon, do you want to talk about like your winter plans? You and I talked about the basketball coaching and how that would be the conflict. And I know you've been working on that.
Yeah, so I have I think I went through last year's activity calendar, and what I found for the winter schedules, the conflicts that there would be, I found 12 conflict dates, where if I was at basketball, there would be a conflict with, for example, junior high wrestling or junior high basketball. 9 of those dates were actually boys and girls basketball together. So if it was a home event, for example, I'd be coaching the girls game. And so I wouldn't be able to cover that girls game as admin on duty. Obviously, I'll be coaching the game. But as soon as my game would be over, I would be available to do that. And I'd be there the rest of the night. So what I've done is I've asked Steve and Mike and Brett if they would be willing to take on a rotation, like, you know, Brett says, I'll do Tuesday night and I'll stay until the girls' game's over. Or Mr. Bullen responded with, I'm at every high school basketball game at home anyways. So there shouldn't be any conflict there. And my goal would be to have everything that they need in place before I ever left the building. So the money, this is what needs to happen. These are the officials' names, you know, here's who's working each of the different duties that were scheduled for that night. For example, money taker or clock or shot clock next year. So I would have all that in place before they left, with hopes that, you know, Mark and I could also get everything set up before I left the building as well. So I think, so outside of those basketball nights, I think it was only 3 conflict dates.
So this is the assumption that you would retain your basketball coaching duty? Or
Correct.
Is that the only one that you?
Yes, I'm going to give the rest up.
Okay.
And I don't do that easily, but I feel like that's in the best interest of everybody if I wasn't coaching for sports and trying to be athletic director. And
It's also the best thing for your marriage, let's be
correct,
honest.
yeah. You
We're
know,
all there.
we want to see each other occasionally.
That's where we see each other anyways.
Got a good first name, it's probably good stuff.
Well, there you go.
I've heard nothing but good, so I'll make a motion to hire Brandon Brown.
Second.
Motion and seconded to hire Brandon Brown, activities director. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item 6, Jennifer Swope, 5 through 12, instrumental music, which includes high school marching band, high school pep band, high school jazz band, and the summer band program.
Steve, you want to talk about Jennifer?
Sure. Mr. Brown and Mrs. Salazar and I interviewed Jennifer. She came out from Carroll, Iowa, where she's been currently there for the last 6 years. She wanted to do a face-to-face interview with us, so she came out last Wednesday, and we had a great time interviewing her. You kind of wonder what brings somebody from Carroll, Iowa to Southeast Iowa. In the conversation during the interview, she grew up in Davenport, and her in-laws and parents still live there. Her and her husband like to hunt and fish. Actually, their bird dog that they bought, I think they said it was bought somewhere within 15 minutes of Wapello. They bring back the dog to get it trained, so she's familiar with the area. They have two-year-old twins. So she has great experience as far as the marching band. She worked with junior high and high school, so she is familiar with working with junior high kids as well. So it's kind of nice to have that, and she has the marching band experience and so forth. And she actually did the color guard as well, all in 1 year as far as color guard and marching band all at once. So she's familiar with kind of what it takes to run a good marching band program. So I would recommend that we hire Jennifer. Brandon, if you or Shannon have anything to add that I forgot, go ahead and feel free to add to it.
I don't think so. I just think that a small school, she kind of filled a lot of boxes for that position. And she has experience, which is nice, you know.
I'll make a motion to hire Jennifer Swope, 5 through 12, instrumental music, high school marching band, high school pep band, high school jazz band, and summer band program.
Second. Motion and seconded to hire Jennifer Swope, 5 through 12, instrumental music. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item B, resignations. We have a few of those as well. We'll start with Monique Peck, all contracts.
Motion to accept the resignation of Monique Beck, all contracts.
Second.
Motion and seconded to approve Monique Peck's resignation for all contracts. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Matt Murray, high school social studies. I understand Matt's retiring after the end of the year.
Yes.
Make a motion to accept the resignation of Matt Murray, high school social studies.
Second.
Motion and seconded to approve Matt Murray's resignation from high school social studies. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Scott Kirby, junior high English.
Make a motion to accept the resignation of Scott Kirby, junior high English.
Second.
Motion and seconded to approve Scott Kirby's resignation for junior high English. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. And Micah Peck for all contracts. Although I understand he has some contracts that go into the summer, he will be fulfilling those contracts through the end of that, not just the school contract, at which time then he'll be done.
So we'll have time to work together.
Yes.
Jennifer's contract will start.
They'll have some time to.
Overlap there.
I understand he's still got the summer band program that he's going to fulfill in junior high baseball.
I'll make a motion to accept Mike Peck's resignation for all contracts.
Motion and seconded to approve Mike Peck's resignation for all contracts. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Moving on to new business. Item A, public hearing for fiscal year 23 budget.
Eric, is there anything more we need to say about the budget?
No, not that I have. Tax rate remaining where it was when I presented to you, 12.9867, which I think is down 21 cents.
Anybody has any?
No objections, comments, concerns? Okay, we'll move on to consideration to approve the fiscal year 23 budget.
I'll make a motion to approve the fiscal year 23 budget. Second.
Motion and second to approve the fiscal year 23 budget. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item C, consideration to approve the list of proposed fundraisers. None.
Mark it on your calendar. I don't know the last time that happened.
Okay, so we'll move on to item D. Consideration to approve trip requests.
Hi, this is one that we actually were supposed to take in, I don't know if we've got everything here. Kind of piecing together. Here you go, here's the back page. I don't have enough for everybody apparently. I guess I didn't look to see if they were back to friends. This is a trip we actually had come to the school board in fall of 19 to get approved for the summer of 2020. It's the same trip. The dates have changed just because of my summer schedule, August 4th through 8th. I do, basically everybody who was gonna go on the original trip except for 2 are no longer interested. And some of the girls during the musical said, well, I'd like to go to New York. And I was like, really? They're like, yeah. So I was like, all right, draw my kids who'd like to go to New York. So you can't really look at the dates and what we're doing day by day, because all I did was take our Thursday through Monday, because we usually go on Monday through Friday. I just kind of switched the dates on it. So nothing has been said. I have done no looking to see what is still open and that kind of stuff, what we can or can't do. But it's basically, like I said, it was approved in the fall of 2019. I'm just getting reapproval since it's kind of different students will be going. There is one former student, Claire White and her mom, who are still interested in going. Other than that, everybody else who was going to go on the trip is no longer going. And our hotels that we had, which we couldn't cancel because we'd already had them booked and paid for, they said they keep them until December of 2022. So the people who paid for their hotel rooms will get their money back. Some of them, not all of the money, just because I don't have as many people going. But it's just to say, hey, I've got 4 girls who are interested in this, and then still the Hoygs and myself and possibly my niece, and saying, hey, we'd still like to go.
And you've done this trip before.
Oh yes, yeah. I've taken 4 maybe groups from here, from 4 or 5 groups here from the school, and of course I go on my own too. So if you have questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Like I said, nothing is set in stone because this stuff might not have reopened yet, and maybe is closed permanently. I haven't done any looking. I thought I'd get the okay first, find out who's actually gonna go. I gave them until May 1st once the approval went through, and then I'll start going from there. And I know because the people whose rooms we couldn't cancel were not people from the school. I could cancel the school rooms last time because, I was like, oh, nothing's gonna happen, we're going. But I knew the school rooms had to go on the school credit card. And so the rooms that they'll be paying for, they'll actually be paying people back for those, and that won't go through the school. But unless you need me to, and then a check be issued to them from the school. However we need to do that, that's fine. But everything else goes through the school then.
And in the end, it all washes out.
Yeah, well, I don't think it'll completely wash out. The people who've already paid for rooms will lose some money because I don't have as many people going. But that's nothing for the students who are going to worry about.
Right. Okay.
So if we approve this trip again, and you get to actually go this time, would you be willing to provide just at a later date sometime before the trip?
Oh, absolutely. An updated schedule? You bet.
Just so
you bet.
we as a district know what's actually going to happen.
And my guess is it'll be very, very similar to this, just with, different, like what we're doing on Saturday, because Saturday is usually a really busy day in the city. We'll probably do on a Thursday, and then, it'll probably just be a lot of flipping around the dates. But yes, absolutely, you bet.
Approve the trip request.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the drama trip to New York City. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And don't forget to come to prom April 30th.
There you go.
Invitations are on my desk. And we'll have Lori too.
Item E, presentation on SEL curricula.
All right, Shannon and Kelsey, the floor is yours.
While this is loading, all year there's been a push across the country to improve, increase social emotional learning. We've kind of tackled that as a district on our own. And elementary has a curriculum called Sanford Harmony that they have used this last year. Some of the teachers have found some holes and whatnot, things that they'd like to fix or they'd like to make better. The secondary has had nothing, and that's pretty common. There's not a lot of stuff out there. Well, Kelsey had some contacts and did some research and found Character Strong, which is a pre-K through 12 curriculum. So this is something that we shared with the staff last week. We did curriculum demos in both buildings. Kelsey ran the high school one and I did the elementary one. After watching a brief video that overviewed the curriculum, we gave them 3 questions to answer around social emotional learning. What is our one job in SEL instruction? Who do you work for and what impact do you want to create? And from those questions, each employee, we had certified and non-certified staff there, developed kind of a purpose statement. And after going through all of those purpose statements, combining kind of like ideas and whatnot, we gave the staff, I think, 5 to vote on, and the one in the blue is what they kind of came to a consensus on to use for our district SEL purpose statement. That our team will improve the social and emotional well-being of all communities within the Wapello Community School District so that we can create a positive school culture that is accepting to all learners and improves mental health and student achievement. So that's kind of our basis for moving forward now. So that took us to Purposeful People, which is the elementary version of the curriculum, and Character Strong. Both of them are focused on fostering the whole child. They have vertically aligned lessons with character development and SEL competencies. So they work hand in hand together. The curriculum is designed by educators, so it's for educators. It's very easy to use. There's plug and play lessons. There's presentations that are developed on slide decks. We will get implementation support from Curriculum Strong. We'll have some PD at the beginning of the school year. There is English and Spanish translations in it if needed. And there's literally nothing for the teachers to prepare. And that's one of the complaints that we've had with the Sanford Harmonies. There's a lot of materials for the teachers to gather and get ready for the lessons. This is pretty much, it's ready to go for the teachers. They take 20, 25 minutes maybe to look over the lesson before they share it with the kids, and then everything is digital and they go. The Purposeful People focuses on these character skills that we want to build in our young people, those 10 of them off to the side. Courage, perseverance, honesty, respect, gratitude, kindness, responsibility, cooperation, creativity, and empathy. And basically it takes one of those and has 4 weeks worth of lessons, so you can focus on one trait per month in the classroom. It's also a holistic approach. So not only does it have lessons that are applicable to things that happen in the classroom, but it also has things that can maybe occur out on the playground. So they kind of do some learning on things that could happen on the playground. There's stuff for the staff to do some character building and some SEL learning around. And there's stuff to share with the parents and the family, so we kind of make them a partner in this learning as well. I'll talk a little bit more about the Character Strong.
So Character Strong goes through 6 through 12. Each band focuses on a different kind of focus that they're looking at for each year. And so then it builds upon each other. And they have very similar structures in every lesson. So they have like a word they're looking for, a discussion, an activity, and a wrap up. And they have this really cool thing called a to-be list. So instead of like a to-do list, they have like, I want to be more mindful. I want to be a better student. So they have things that they're working towards, and they come back to that every week and work on that. But it works right through the system. It doesn't repeat each other, which is kind of a catch-22 when you do secondary SEL, that it repeats. It'll oftentimes repeat itself, or it will be like, we've done this before, why are we doing this again? Oftentimes, like, it doesn't include role play, because a lot of the times SEL learning involves role play. Secondary doesn't want to do that. So it has really purposeful focuses, and it's about 45 minutes long every week. So
then each grade level has their own content. So like she said, it's not gonna repeat. It's not gonna, kindergarten, first grade isn't gonna have the same content to cover throughout the school year. Kindergarten has its own content, first grade all the way up through 12th grade. So they're getting something different and it builds upon each other each year. We are recommending that as a district, we look at purchasing this curriculum to begin for use in the fall.
And Kelsey, you have experience with this program. Your mom uses this?
Yeah, so my mother is the school counselor at Centerville High School, and she uses this program. A friend of mine works at Eddyville. They use this program at ISCA, which is the Iowa School Counselor Association conference in Des Moines. Clinton uses this, and they say they really like it.
You know, any smaller schools that use it?
Eddyville, which is about our size, Eddyville, Wicksburg.
And they use both the purposeful people and the character strong.
What does the program do that we shouldn't be doing as a staff, teachers, every day in every other class that we teach? I mean, the skills that you listed on that one slide, I mean, to me, that's stuff that, I don't care if you're a math teacher, a reading teacher, or it's in math class, reading class, I mean, what is there on there about this that we shouldn't be just doing ongoing?
It's implicitly taught. So what we found in research over the years is these kind of skills have to be implicitly taught just like a math skill does. In a 45-minute focus lesson that they're understanding that. And then you reinforce it every day in classroom.
So what's changed? When I was in school, we didn't have to teach it. What's changed in 30 years?
Increase in mental health need. Right now, if I sent a student to the hospital, they probably would not go to a mental health institution. They would be there for 24 hours. They may see a psychologist, they may not. They'd be sent home with hope they can see a counselor in 2 months.
That's 100% true.
Yes.
From our
But how does this change that?
Because it provides culture, it provides some coping skills. A lot of times what happens with our kids is they don't have any coping skills.
We should be providing those anyway, regardless of the curriculum.
Is this focused on just individuals in need, or is this a
This
whole
is
class?
tier 1. This is tier 1.
It covers the whole classroom, right?
Yep.
So
Yes.
regardless, so if you have children like that are actually, in need,
Yes.
is this something to build on for them? I mean, you can,
Yes.
instead of, if you're doing the whole classroom, kids being kids, some of them are, not gonna really interest them if it doesn't
Right.
exactly, if it doesn't, affect them.
Yes, and that's one of the things that when we listen to these webinars, they say you're gonna have kids in there that aren't gonna interact, they're not gonna participate in the activity, but they're hearing it. But then, yes, this will help build on for those kids that are a little bit higher need.
And then we're using something else right now anyway, correct?
No.
The elementary has
Yeah.
Stanford Harmony, the secondary does not have it.
Secondary is using what I piecemealed together for them for this semester.
Just to kind of.
Just a Band-Aid in.
Well, I don't have a problem with it, I don't think that, I know there's different needs nowadays than what there has been in the past. And maybe we don't understand it every time, but we're not there, you guys are, so I'll count on your expertise.
When would the 45 minutes be taught at the secondary?
So we right now have something called Thoughtful Thursday. So our students go into grade level classrooms, and there's about 4 in every grade level, and they're with a group of about 12 to 15 students, and they go through this lesson with that teacher.
It's during that AAT time.
During lunchtime.
Around lunch.
So it's a designated set aside time.
Yes.
It's not whenever you can fit it in.
Right. It's everybody's getting the same lesson or the same point at that lesson's going at the same time.
And I think that's important, because if you just rely on people doing it when they have time, it never happens.
What do we budget for curriculum for the school year for this year besides this? You know what our total budget was?
Eric, can you pull that number?
$22,000. So we're looking at spending more than half of our total curriculum that we budgeted for the rest of the system, for the rest of the school on this. I'm not disputing there's a need. I'm struggling with $13,000. I don't care whether it's ESSER. I don't care whether it's ESSER or not.
I don't know what they wouldn't be coming out of this budget.
Right, but I'm just, fundamentally, we only budget $22,000 for our curriculum, and we're looking at spending $13,000.
The behaviors that you're gonna be managing post-COVID in youth development, are not gonna decrease. Like, the physical aggression, the verbal aggression, the hostility, like the research is showing. I'm just jumping in, it's just because
I'm not disagreeing. Fundamentally, I'm in a different place. I think it's a lack of discipline. I think you have discipline, you don't even get to this point. I realize there's always kids, but I'm gonna keep my mouth shut the rest of the time.
We budgeted 60, we spent 22 out of 60.
That was my question, so this is going to be ESSER funded, right? But, you know, with that being said, then it's limited from year to year. ESSER funds are not always gonna be there, so.
This is a one-time cost, then, isn't it?
The big cost is, there is a renewal.
What's that?
It's, yeah.
Per what?
Per building.
Per year?
1,400, yeah.
Per year.
Well, that's doable. I don't see that being a problem.
And I mean, if they make updates to it constantly, and so once we get that initial cost, then any updates they make, as long as we keep doing that renewal, we're gonna get those.
For
as long as we do it.
Okay, so it's not a 7-year program that after 7 years you must purchase a new core package or something like that.
So when would you see it worked into the schedule, and is anything gonna be taken away?
No.
Nope,
We already have that time, like Kelsey said, at the secondary, well, at least the 9-12.
Yes.
She's developed some lessons for the teachers to run through with the kids to kind of Band-Aid right now. But this is gonna be more thought out and planned out and research-based.
I see the worst of the worst from another standpoint, and I would fully agree with this program based upon what stats are showing. I've seen a lot of those stats that my mental health is a huge problem, social, emotional, and home problem, so I'm in favor of it. If it's a great program, you're telling me other schools are using it, you want to use it, I'm in favor for it.
I think the biggest thing is that it's pre-K through 12. There's a lot of stuff for the really K through 8 or pre-K through 8, but at the secondary level, there's just not a lot out there. So the fact that this is pre-K through 12 and it builds from year to year is probably one of the biggest things that I like.
It's nice that they're going to look at stats each year and figure out what the actual problem is and then relate it to a curriculum.
How are they collecting that data? Are there evaluations?
Yes, there are some pre and post
impact
assessments.
reports and.
Was there anything else that was considered, or was this the only?
This is really what we found to be the best for the secondary level. There is SAGE, but it's not anywhere near this level. And it has to be done with a ton of materials and a ton of prep work by our teachers. And we didn't know they just don't have time.
Second step is another one.
Yeah.
That I've used when I was teaching, and it hasn't changed since that was over.
And does second step go up through 12th grade? 8th grade, that's what I thought.
Any other discussion points? If not, I'll look for a motion for item F to approve purchase of SEL curriculum.
I'll bring to your attention, that's got sales tax in the quote, which we can send them to the gate.
12,947. 12,947.30 is the total price.
All do sole move using ESSER funds.
Mike, will that have to, we have to get state approval on that?
It's not a capital purchase, so we shouldn't have.
Is it, I was gonna say, is it something that if we are within our budget of using it for curriculum, do we continue to put it on a curriculum? Eric, that's up to you. Well, I just didn't know if it's.
What do you have left to?
Why would you not want to use the ESSER funds? For ways to spend ESSER
Well, we
funds?
were, I don't know if we, I don't know with what the ideas that have come up tonight, if we are still. I guess if we are struggling to spend, then yeah, that makes the most sense. I just didn't know, do you think stay with the ESSER?
I would say stay with the ESSER.
Okay.
Since we have the funds, let's stay with it.
Okay. Did you motion?
I'll second.
Motion and seconded to approve the purchase of SEL curriculum. Ever say aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item G, consideration, thank you ladies.
Thank you.
Item G, consideration to approve tentative agreement with the Wapello Education Association.
All right, we have concluded negotiations. Matt and Brandon were on the district negotiating team, so thank you to them for taking part in that. The tentative agreement we have is in your packet. Let me just summarize really quickly. We put $900 on the base. That is more generous than we have been in the past, but I think we all agree that the times we live in are not like they were in the past either. And Matt and Brandon chime in if I misspeak on anything. We're going to have a contract that runs through 24-25. That doesn't mean we won't get together every year to talk about money. We do, but the terms of the master contract itself will be 2024-25. The teacher contract days are currently 192. Part of our settlement was to reduce those down to 190. The student contact days will not change. These will come off of teacher work days, in-service days. Student contact time will not be affected by this. Contract wording, Article 3, letter D, that is something that has been in place for a number of years. It just clarifies some of the language in there, does not change anything. Under Article 4, you have 2 bullets. The first bullet, there is no language change. That applies to, say I need to have an English teacher who teaches 8 classes and a full-time load is 7. Okay, they'd be put on what's called overload and then they would receive some additional pay. The second bullet is the one where there is some language change, and this deals with internal sub-coverage. With the language that both sides have agreed to is that teachers who have to sacrifice a prep period in order to cover for a colleague will receive $20 per prep period that they sacrifice. Since by contract, teachers have 1 prep period a day, this is a maximum of 1 time a day when you can receive this. Okay, am I saying that right, guys? Okay. And then procedures for staff reduction reflects some of the staffing changes we have. We have 1 art teacher now, so instead of having elementary art and high school art, we now have K-12 art. It's just some wording changes to reflect some staffing changes. Okay. And that is the agreement that we've negotiated. My understanding is the association has ratified this, and so we would ask that this body do the same.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion and seconded to approve the agreement with the Wapello Education Association. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion passes. Item H, discussion of revised 2022-2023 calendar.
All right, since you just approved the negotiated agreement, we need to revisit the calendar because we have to take staff days from 192 down to 190. District leadership team met and looked at the calendar, and their recommendation is to take May 25 and 26, which were going to be teacher work days at the end of the year, and simply lock those off. And that would mean May 24th, would be the last student day. That's an early dismissal. Teachers would have until the end of the workday on the 24th to check out with their administrator, do their end of the year wrap-up stuff, and then at the end of that day, their contract is over. Mediapolis, just as an example, operates under this. I think they have for a number of years. In talking to the teachers at the table, they said that this didn't present a huge burden for them. Some teachers will be here past that, closing up, but that was going to happen anyway. So we thought this was the easiest way to take care of that 192 down to 190. Doesn't affect the kids, doesn't affect the operations of the school year. Does anybody have any questions on that?
Is there anything I could correct? Dana stopped in that day, that meeting. When we approved this last time, I was asking for more days at Christmas. Is there?
Nothing has changed
Okay.
at Christmas. Nope. The only change is those 2 days in May.
And that was just to get in compliance with the agreement, we just taking it to 190
Correct.
days.
And so if there are no questions on that, what we'll need to do when we get to item H is to. Aye, thank you. Is to set up a public hearing for the calendar and then formally approve it again in May.
So we'll just do that as a board meeting again.
Yeah.
Okay, so if there's no other discussion of the revised calendar, we'll move on to item I, to set the date and time for the public hearing on the revised 2022-2023 calendar.
Do we have to do that before the next meeting?
Well, we can set that now, then we can just.
It can be at the next meeting.
It'll be at the next meeting.
That's what I was asking, we got no
Yeah.
reason to do it before that.
No.
No, it can just be a part of the regular May meeting.
The second Wednesday is May 11th.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, can we push the time back to 7 p.m.?
Yeah, I agree.
I'm fine.
Sectional visit. Okay. 7 o'clock, 7:30. It'll be ready.
9:30. You're pushing it now.
10:30.
It's gonna be
It
raining
probably,
anyway.
it probably will.
Yeah, it'll be ready.
It'll probably rain the next day, but we try to finish something. Okay, so, May, I'll ask for a motion for May 11th at 7 p.m.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded to set date and time for public hearing, May 11th, 7 p.m. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Discussion on sanctioning girls wrestling.
Michelle?
So I think this is just discussion.
It is.
Just information. So as I said earlier, in January, the Iowa High School Girls Athletic Association sanctioned girls wrestling. This year, I can't remember the exact number, but they had over 100 girls that participated in the Iowa Coaches Association state championship. We actually had a wrestler, Kate Wolford, finish second in that this year. They announced that, and so they're gonna move forward with plans for that. So I would just like to bring the discussion forward to make girls wrestling official at Wapello for the 2022-2023 season. I think there are some girls that would be interested in wrestling if they knew they didn't have to wrestle boys. So I think you'll get more kids to come out. Obviously Tate, as long as Coach Brown is still on board with sharing her, I think she'll still try to do both. But she's had success, and I think other girls will follow suit quickly with them, so.
Okay.
What else you need from me?
So down the road, if the board decides to sanction girls wrestling, I mean, what are the next steps? Are we going to be looking at additional coaching staff? Are we gonna have alternate practice schedules? I mean,
Maybe eventually.
going down the road, what are we going to have to look at?
I would say maybe eventually, but you're probably talking at least 5 years out, I would say. I think at this point, keep it under one umbrella, one head coach with maybe 2 assistant coaches, a third coach paid, in this case. Just because on Saturday tournaments, it happened this year. Tate went somewhere with girls, JV boys went somewhere, varsity boys went somewhere. So now you've got 3 coaches going out with the liability of taking them. So they're paid for that eventually. At this point, I think keep it under one roof. If you only have 2 or 3 girls, you can fit those in a room with the boys, wrestling by themselves to the side. But eventually, maybe you have to look at having 2 separate programs. But I think the girls can't wrestle the boys, but they can be in the same room practicing with the boys. But they can't in competition wrestle with the boys, and they have to decide if they're gonna wrestle the boys or they're gonna wrestle the girls. That answer your question? Right, okay. So maybe eventually, but I don't think right away. I think in the immediate, you stay with one head coach and 2 assistants, and then the assistants provide between JV and the girls how they see fit.
So here's a logistics question. Now that the state has sanctioned girls wrestling, if we have a girl wrestler, but we have not as a district sanctioned girls wrestling, is there a liability issue? Is there a competition issue? Do we need to get ourselves in line with the state if we're going to have girls who are wrestling?
I would say if they're gonna wrestle, just I think otherwise they'll have to go through the high school, the boys, not the association, but, well, yeah, the association, the boys part of it, because they'll be wrestling boys. I think to compete for the girls, you'll have to do that.
Do we know what the expectation, I mean, when the state sets up meets, I mean, or if we've got an away meet, is it gonna be, you're gonna wrestle the girls with the boys so that you're not gonna have girls at New London and boys at Columbus Junction? I mean, is the state given any indication, will they, you know, if there's a tournament on Saturday, will there be a girl segment and a boy segment? So if we did have one head coach, that they can.
I doubt that.
I can see
They're gonna still,
duels being both, like not
just like they
tournaments
do
are
with
gonna be.
fresh soft and varsity, you could go, and if we had enough girls, I could see them, you know, the girls may all have to end up going clear to Fort Madison, or, you know, to get enough to go, so. And if you're gonna get girls out, I'm all for it. I think a lot of them don't go out because they don't wanna wrestle boys. I think you'd have more girls that went out if it was just their sport, feel more comfortable about it. So maybe, you know, it may take time to grow, like Michelle said, but I would plan on having an extra coach that's gonna have to go with that.
I would too.
What's the downside of sanctioning it? If we sanction it, are we obligated to hire a coach and do all that?
From the sounds of it, the only thing, by sanctioning it, the only thing we're saying we're gonna do is if a girl goes out for wrestling, she's going to wrestle in girls tournaments and wrestle girls only.
I would say the benefit is she's gonna wear Wapello colors with the Wapello singlet, because we're gonna provide that for her as an athlete for us. As far as boys and girls wrestling each other, if you read it, it's like any sport. Girls are allowed to play baseball because baseball's a different sport than softball. But they're not allowed to play boys basketball. Wrestling's gonna be the same way. It's gonna be girls wrestling's over there and boys wrestling's over here. That crossover mat stuff's not gonna happen. So I think just, in my talking with Michelle, I think that the biggest point is that we're supporting it, saying we're gonna do this. Even if it's just ceremonial, you're saying, we're in, we'll do that.
Well, it's kind of, we've taken our step, the next step's up to the individuals, whether they want to make the program build or not, you know, by going out. And if it becomes popular enough.
That'll be, and then
Yeah,
that'll be a determining factor on what we do.
On hiring more room, you know.
And I don't know how insurance works, but my assumption is it's better if the school says we're supporting this than saying.
It's just another layer of.
Well, if it ever gets to the point where we would host an event, we would obviously need to be sanctioned, you know, to even be able to be considered for anything like that.
That would be
insurance wise and through the state. I guess I don't see any downfall to sanctioning it. Like I said, it's leave it up to the success of the individual, whether they want to make the program move forward.
Right. So this will come for you as an action item then at the May meeting. We want.
Okay, that's right. This is just discussion.
Yep.
That's correct.
Yep. Because we hadn't talked about it at all prior to this. So. Okay.
All right, thanks everybody for the information. Item K, consideration to approve insurance plan offerings for 2022-2023.
All right, Eric, do you want to refer to your summary document that you have here? Can you summarize what we're talking about?
So if you picked up an agenda when you came in, this is stated on the back of this, and this is the.
You want us to hold on?
No, I can hear it.
This is the Iowa Star Schools.
I'll be quietly.
Choices of health insurance plans for starting July 1st, 2022, and through June 30th, 2023. As you can see, there's 9 different plans that are available, going from a $250, $500 deductible up to a HSA that's got a $5,200 single, $10,000 family deductible. So wide range, and I think when the negotiating team was talking about this, instead of trying to narrow it down to just a few plans, all of them are going to be laid out there for our employees to choose from. Plan number 5 will be the one that will become the district's base plan. So that's the one they're going to fund a single policy at 100%. So if you go anything to the left of plan 5, you can choose to buy down that deductible, but the costs are going to be at your cost. So right now the district will pay 100% of the single, which is $662.69, and they're going to pay 74% of the family premium. So is that right? 74%, right?
Yes.
So the district will pay $1208.77. The balance will be left to the employee. So $1208.77 and $662.69 become the magic numbers. If you want to go to the left, you can choose to pay those costs out of pocket on a pre-tax basis. If you want to go to the right, obviously those plans cost less, and you can actually put some money into some different cafeteria plan type products, such as you can pay your health or your dental, your vision, Aflac, or put it into a 403B. So anything that is not, so if you choose plan 6, for instance, it's $586, and you're single, you're going to have $75 or so to put into one of those other products. So plan 5 becomes the base. Anything to the left is going to be more expensive, and that way taking out the employee's check pre-tax. Anything to the right is going to be less expensive, and we can put that into a different cafeteria plan product. So, have I missed anything, or is that
just
any questions?
A big improvement over our current offering is this is back to a PPO plan, which means we are not so limited as to what our district plan is now. Now, if you end up going to the doctor out of state, chances are very good you're going to pay 100% of it yourself. The plan doesn't cover it at all. This moves us away from that. We talked about the benefit of offering all 9 plans with the idea of people can take control of the kind of coverage that they feel is best for them. If they feel like they want to purchase more, they have that option. If they don't feel like they need the coverage amount that's in Plan 5, they have the option of going to something less. It increases the amount of choice that we have for people. Eric, you had mentioned that this is a part of the Iowa Star Schools. Just to remind people, we have tried to get into that group in the past and we were unable to. We were finally able to get into that, and I think that's a wonderful thing. The days of double-digit insurance premium increases should be in the past. You're in a much larger group. Common sense says that's going to have a beneficial effect on your premiums. We've tried to do it. We haven't been able to. We finally were, so I think that's a good thing.
One change from the plan that we're currently in, our employees will be used to a copay when they go to the doctor, chiropractor, or whatever. This is going to change to a 20% co-insurance. I asked Dennis how that's going to translate for our employees. The biggest benefit you're going to see when you go to chiropractor, their base charge for an office visit is much less. So you're probably not going to pay $20 to go to the chiropractor. It's probably going to be $10 or less. An office visit out here at the Great River Clinic is probably less than the $20 copay you can pay. The specialist doctors, just depending on what their base charges are, will depend on that. That is a change. It won't be a set copay anymore. It's going to be a 20% co-insurance. And then the only other thing is, just to bring your attention, this is a $1,500, $3,000 deductible. I'm trying to think.
Which one part of it, we looked at that, we came at it both from a private sector and other.
This is a decent amount. Per month.
For the employee.
Yeah.
38 or something, post.
So a little more risk with the deductible, but paying less up front too. So if you don't have a medical event, you actually able to pocket more cash.
Yeah, $30.38. It's going to be less
Per month.
Per month.
And then we're now moving back to, a couple of years ago, we changed to new employees coming in.
Yep, that's the next item.
Oh, that's next item. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Any questions from staff that's in the audience that we can answer?
I would just ask that, currently we have 3 options, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the PPO option was the middle option I think we took this year.
Right.
Comparing
the $3,000 deductible.
Right, comparing that middle one that I would assume many people selected versus the base one, whatever they called that one. How's that compare?
Pretty.
Like plan 5, let's say plan 5 versus that one, yeah.
Fairly close. I mean, the deductible is the same.
Yeah.
The biggest difference is that co-insurance and
Co-insurance,
co-pay.
yeah.
Everything else, I think, is pretty well just about the same.
If I recall, and this is just me speaking clearly off one of my poor memory, my family has a 20% co-insurance deductible and has had for quite a few years, and it saved us money over the old days of $20 every time you go someplace. But we don't traditionally have a lot of specialty care, so that's where that could get, you know,
Right.
if you said somebody had a lot of specialty care, that would get more expensive. But just from a standard going well checkups to the doctor, that kind of stuff, it actually is less money out of pocket for us to go into the clinic and have something taken care of.
And I would think that would cover the majority of staff and everybody.
I would think, yeah, as a general blanket statement, most people probably fall into that, obviously, there's.
Well, with 9 plans, I mean, there's choices.
Yeah, there's
They're
absolutely,
young,
yeah,
single,
absolutely.
healthy. I mean, you're probably gonna wanna move to the right and save some money.
Oh, 20 years ago, I would've went clear to the right. 20 years ago, I would've went clear to the right. I guarantee you.
So with going clear to the right or even going over to the right, and you say that money will still come out, they're just gonna be able to put it into a 403B or cafeteria plan. Now, is all that stuff something like a cafeteria plan? Is that something that you have to use in that time frame of that year, or else you start over? Or does it go, how does that one work? I know I had a cafeteria plan one time, and if you didn't use it, you lose it.
Like a flex spending, is that what you're talking about?
Flex will expire, but everything else you're gonna get, you know, it's gonna be set up on a plan, whether it's dental or vision or, you know, 403B, that's a different story. But
Right. That's
Flex is the one that expires.
Oh, okay.
That's kind of where you want to go with that, their glasses.
Yeah.
You know, right before it expires.
Well, just looking at these, it says like fourth quarter deductible carryover, NA on 6, 7, or 6, or 6, 8, and 9. No carryover. What's that mean? Fourth quarter deductible carryover.
So a lot of insurance plans will have that fourth quarter carryover so that if the expenses started in the fourth quarter, they'll
allow you to go ahead and, so you don't have a, like, yeah, I understand.
Right, because our plan starts in July, but the deductibles reset in January, so.
Right.
If you have an expense that started in the fourth quarter, it'll allow you to continue on.
And take advantage of the money you already had to pay.
But even if you went to the right, I mean, we're providing 74% of Plan 5.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can use that to go towards your premium. I mean, it might end up, what the school provides might end up funding 100% of your premium to the right, correct? I mean, so then you don't have any, so, in that case, there's not money sitting there in a pot. You just don't have to pay anything for your medical insurance. Now, if something happens, you've got more risk. Deductible, but that's.
Plan 9, so they would choose that. That is an HMO plan,
Which is
HSA.
what we
Yes. Everything else will be PPO.
Well, can I say something? I mean, as an employee, I'm appreciative that it's probably the best plan that I've seen in the last probably 3 or 4 years. And I appreciate your consideration when taking care of that. Because even, and I know you guys already know this, but the raises we've got over the last few years just seem to go away somewhere else. And so if you really go back about 4 or 5 years, I'm not sure you'll find a lot of people that'll say, thank you for a raise, because we haven't got one.
Well,
a true one.
eating up somewhere
And
else.
we're very appreciative of that. And I know you guys probably don't hear that enough, but tonight I can believe you're feeling pretty good about looking at that versus what I've seen the last few years.
Well, I think that a lot of that has to do with, we've always tried to do the best we could with the money we had, but being able to get into this consortium made a huge difference. And we just, they wouldn't take us. We just, whatever reason.
Well, it's being good, we'll still need to continue to be good consumers of healthcare.
Absolutely, yeah.
To stay in the group, and that hopefully if everybody in the group is, we won't see increases over time.
So our recommendation was somebody.
Well, I was just gonna say, kind of more on what Brandon said, and Eric and I had this discussion the last couple of years. I think we've actually lost some hires because of insurance.
Oh, I believe it. Absolutely.
Back in the day, that was the thing that said, when I used to show people, hey, this is what our insurance plan is, they were like, you might not be paying as much on the base, but your insurance makes up for it. So
It's a huge consideration for folks. these
More
days.
and more.
You know, and that was a discussion I had with Matt Murray when he talked about retiring, is that he was saying, as a family, let's say you're a young family moving to town and you're gonna pay $1,000 out of pocket for insurance on a $40,000 salary, 12,000 of those eating up on insurance, and he was like, that's not a drawing.
No, absolutely not.
Or this is, so, yeah.
So our recommendation would be that Plan 5 become the district plan.
Any other questions?
Look for a motion, Doug.
I'm looking to see where we're even at on the list, because I lost track. Yeah, I am. This is an action item.
It's
so
okay.
I'm looking for a motion.
Make a motion to approve insurance plan offering for 2022-2023 fiscal year, with Plan 5 being the standard funded plan. I'll second.
Okay, motion and seconded to approve the insurance plan offerings for 2022-2023, with Plan 5 being the district recommended plan, district paid for plan, however you want to term it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
And I
Thank
know,
you guys, for everybody for putting in the work on this.
I know there's a concern raised from the staff that they wanna, have this information in front of them before you sign your contract, and I would assume you're gonna send this out in the
Absolutely.
update, so.
Yep.
Anybody that's got questions can get a hold of me or Mike and be happy to answer those. And obviously, the contract's approved tonight, it'll take a couple weeks to get those generated, so.
Okay, so moving on to item L, consideration to remove two-tiered insurance contribution plan.
All right, this talks to what Steve was talking about before. Back when our insurance situation wasn't as positive as it is now that we're in that larger group and we were looking at double-digit increases, we made it so that anybody hired after a certain date would not receive any additional insurance benefit from the district other than a single. And as Steve said, you had people who, that was a deciding factor. The paradigm of our insurance has shifted. The environment we're in is better. Given that and given the labor market, I would recommend that you get rid of that and we take all of the certified employees are eligible to receive the same insurance benefit. Am I wording that correctly, Eric? Okay.
And it was very few people that it impacted.
Right.
There was some administrative things that we were doing for two different tiers that.
Yep.
I'll make a motion that we remove the two-tiered insurance contribution plan.
Second.
Motion seconded to remove the two-tiered insurance contribution plan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item M, consideration to approve board policies 4.11.1 through 4.411.7.
All right, these deal with your classified employees as opposed to your certified employees. Basically, the language, they really mirror each other. It talks about, the definitions, how you go about recruiting them, contracts, all of that information. Our language is up to date. I have no recommended changes. If you don't have any questions, I would recommend that you approve them. If you do have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Motion approved 411.1 through 411.7.
Second.
Motion and seconded to approve board policies 4.411.1 through 411.7. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item N, discussion of the ESSER funding, or discussion of the ESSER survey results.
All right, we administered, you can take one and then pass it around if you would. We administered a survey to the staff, asking them for some input on how we could spend our ESSER funds. I was really pleased with the level of participation we had, and I think you should all be pleased with the variety of ideas that people came up with. What you have before you is a list of options that were provided by the staff. Now, some of them have been condensed, like under junior high PE equipment, Vandy had a list of like 6 or 7 separate items. for the purposes of our discussion, I lumped that together into one, okay? The ones at the top, let me say this, the ones at the top are the ones that our district leadership team, when we met, identified as very strong priority needs. Doesn't mean that the rest are not important, but I asked them to kind of help this board get a sense of what the staff felt was really important to pursue. They are in alphabetical order. Do not interpret the order to be any kind of priority. Okay, I had to sort them somehow, so that's how they got sorted. But let me just work you through here. Camera system upgrade and vaping detectors at the high school. This is something that can be bundled into one package. We currently have 2 quotes, and Grant Wood is working on a 3rd quote for me. So, you know, when we get that 3rd quote, I think that's something that we can certainly take a look at. 4? Who?
Electronic apps.
Have not gotten that one yet. Okay, so you'll have 4, which is amazing.
What's the camera system upgrade? I mean, what does that involve, or
We have a hodgepodge of cameras right now, and half of them work, and half of them don't work, and the ones that decide to work are different from day to day. So the thought is we have the opportunity with funding through ESSER, we can get a coherent working system.
This is through at the high school.
And at the elementary.
Both buildings?
Not vaping detectors at the elementary. I hope not.
No.
There's story behind that.
Right, so cameras at both buildings, vaping sensors at the high school. We also had talked through this process of maybe putting a camera in front of both entrances to this building. So, you know, that would be a minimal additional expense. Given some of the decisions we make in this building, it might not be bad to have that.
And how do we use, I mean, it's just so you have a kid a fight that happens in the hall or something like that, it's just to allow us to see what really happened. You got a locker that gets kicked in, who did it, I mean, how are we using them today?
Yeah.
Do they have to use them? Unless I know what they're wearing that day, or if I know who they are, I'm probably not.
They're not good enough to tell you, but that's how you, is that, so how would you use it, Steve? I mean,
how it's.
You go ahead first.
These are the inside and out, right? You're talking outside stuff too, or just all inside?
Complete, inside and out.
How it's used today, I mean, if I know there's, let's say, you told me there was, somebody went to the locker room and there was money stolen, okay? The kid comes and tells me, but they can't tell me, I think it happened around 9 o'clock.
you could see who went in and out of the locker room.
Well, I'll start looking at 9 o'clock, but it might take me, I might have to look through hours worth of footage to find it, where the cameras now, if I remember correctly, Brandon, are more motion sensors.
Sensor based.
So they record when there's activity in that area, so you don't have to do that, hunt and find. But yeah, the cameras, when they were back in the day when they were new, I mean, they were awesome because you could identify. But things with the new ceiling tile and stuff that we put in over the years, changing them, changing the locations of them, stuff like that. That has gotten bad. And when we built the addition outside, they didn't put the cameras back where we had them before, so you don't have really, I mean, if we had some nice cameras outside, we probably could have figured out some car damage the last few years. We don't really have that opportunity right now. But it makes a huge difference when you have some nice cameras.
Yeah, these are facial recognition as well. You can set people's faces in the Iowa DOT record. You don't want that individual coming to school. If that person approaches the school, set off an alarm to the phones. It can even be accessed through our dispatch center. If there's a big problem, they can watch and they can tell officers where problems are. Anybody from here that has access can do it. You can throw your sex offender files into that, and if the sex offender comes up to school, it will tell you that they're here. A wanted person even, if they have a warrant. Just amazing technology right now. This stuff's.
How does ESSER, I mean, is that, I mean, I'm all in from what I'm hearing, but I mean, how does that fall under ESSER?
School safety.
Must be really outdated.
It's correct. Sorry.
And Brandon, how many times have you requested camera footage for something and we just don't have it? For something that's happened out in the community that one of our cameras should have caught, and it didn't.
the new cameras will pick up, you know, all the way around the school. I can't remember what the camera is called, just something and does a 180 vision. There we go, fisheye cameras. Those, and Cody's went through mapping systems and tried to put them in certain places that he feels that has the highest risk of something happening. It definitely, absolutely needs to happen. Other schools are using these same programs. I've read through a lot of them. I can't remember. Mount Pleasant uses some of them. Highland and a lot of those.
Didn't L&M just
L&M
not long ago?
Different program,
Right.
almost the same, but we're behind the times on this. We think we can run all the cameras with the current wiring, because the wiring is Cat 5. It's new enough to do this with. If not, we could maybe run the whole system wirelessly if we can't put the wires in there, or if they're not the right ones.
The only recommendation I would make, Brandon, maybe you, speaking of too, but right now our system in the high school it's located in the office, and that's where the monitors are. So when I gotta go over there and start going through it, who's ever in the office can see me doing that. It's not really privacy work. Or Cody up in his office, he has a monitor in his office where he can see that. He can't actually go through search stuff like I do, but he can see the cameras right there in his office.
He tested it last year and did everything from his cell phone too, so that's what we do.
So we're gathering quotes on that, and when we have those, then we should take action on that if the board decides they want to do that. The next one is a computer program that allows staff to monitor student computer use. You know, basically it's a monitoring system. You can see with the Chromebooks what the kids in your classroom are doing, and if they're doing something inappropriate, you can shut them down. Not that our kids would ever do that, but the capability is there. It also has a feature that would allow us to tier student network access. So if someone screws up, we can turn down their access to the bare minimum of what they would need. As they demonstrate that they can handle technology appropriately, we can dial that back up. And it can be done on an individual student basis. It doesn't have to be on a group basis. There's a great deal of interest among the staff to have this kind of program. I have Grant Wood getting me 2 quotes from 2 different companies. I have one that I received late this afternoon. They're working on getting me the other one.
Who monitors this? How is this monitored? Does each individual staff deal with a certain amount of students? I mean, who's policing this, I guess?
You mean if someone's going to someplace inappropriate?
Yeah.
Yeah, the students who are in your classroom are the ones that you can monitor at that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that the technology follows the computer on the student to the individual rooms, which each time the teacher can open up a program or whatever on the computer and monitor while they're in their classroom.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
We used to have a similar program back in the day. It was kind of interesting. We had an instructional council meeting here, and Sam Helberg was in the meeting. You know, so she had a southern room, and she told the kids, you know, you can't go to such and such site. So kids are on those sites, but she said, right here, kick them off.
Really?
And they're like.
And they try to go back on and
you kick them off. Oh, somebody's monitoring me. I better stay out.
What surprised me, and I'll bet it took 6 or 7 tries for you to give up.
Before he gave up.
Yeah.
He's a stubborn one, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
All right. Other things that were very strong priorities. Elementary counselor, no doubt that it's needed. The question then becomes sustainability when ESSER money comes, but you cannot argue that there is a need for a counselor. An elementary interventionist to replace the work currently being done by Dawn Shipman, because she's going in to teach 5th grade. For both buildings, we floated the idea of having a full-time sub in each building to alleviate some of the subbing difficulties we've had. The idea of an outdoor classroom with seating area and instruction space over at the high school was talked about quite a bit. So that's something that we thought would be worth exploring. There's also some talk about updating playground equipment at the elementary, looking at some handicapped accessible playground equipment. So there are definite needs for that. And then the ones that are not bolded, again, it doesn't mean they aren't important, it's just in terms of priorities, these really rose to the top. There's an interest in air conditioning units, of course, should not surprise anybody. Standing desks, these are desks that are literally what they say. You can set them to sit, you can set them so a student can stand at them. It's amazing the number of discipline problems you can take care of if students can move around and still be at a desk. After school programming, one staff member had the idea of an after school enrichment activity based program. The issue with that would be how are you going to staff it and would kids participate? But it was an idea that was raised. Electrical upgrades. If you've been in the classrooms, you know we have lots of classrooms that have an outlet there and there. And so teachers are running power cords and extension cords because they have to. Well, the fire marshal isn't really happy about that when they see that. So that's something that was brought up. The idea of flat top desks so that things, aka Chromebooks, don't fall off of desks, especially at junior high. Someone brought up the idea of improving the elementary appearance outside. No details were given, but just the idea of sprucing things up. And we can't say that ESSER would cover all of these things, but these were ideas that people had. Some things for the art program, individual art materials, individual tables. We need to replace an interactive projector in kindergarten. I have received a quote for that this afternoon. Some PE equipment, blinds in the library, ceiling tiles, new washer and dryers. Again, maybe not applicable for ESSER, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't look at them anyway. Anne has some nursing supplies that she would like, and she has such a hard time asking for things. And we said, Anne, we have the money. If you want it, put in for it. So she's put in some stuff. We're looking at some science enrichment stuff for grades 9 through 12. An online typing program so you don't have kids who are going like this all the time. Though you can find those online for free. Yeah. Some science resources to go along with new science curriculum. Are you a two-finger typing?
Well, I just wondered, they don't
They
teach
do.
kids how to
They
type.
do this.
No, they
No.
They do this.
Yeah.
We used to-
They're used to
That's
typing on their
exactly.
phones.
Typewriters.
They don't-
Yes, you had home row and
Yeah.
exactly.
We don't, even though it's computers and not typewriters, we don't have like where you have to be able to type so many words a minute.
Yeah, it probably is.
Some teachers do it on their own, but there's not a
Yeah,
set.
there's nothing
not a
consistent.
requirement, yeah.
Bill Dunham is wanting to get some up-to-date laptops to help his CAD program. The high school bathrooms apparently need to be redone. I say that facetiously. If you've been in them, you know that they could use some attention. And then Todd's put together a proposal for a summer strength and speed program. And he's come up with some ideas of hours and how he'd like to see it staffed. So you have some, I think you have some really good things to consider. I have down on the agenda to schedule a special meeting to take action on these, largely because we don't have all of the quotes that we're waiting for. But I left this as an information action in case you do have things you want to just say, yep, do it now. Otherwise, I'd say we should schedule a special meeting where this can be our area of focus.
It's hard to do it now when we don't have costs.
Well, I know.
Question on the full-time subbing,
Yes.
for elementary and secondary. Have we done anything with that process yet? From the last meeting, we talked about, being interested in that. Have we put the word out to try to see?
We have not put the word out yet because we hadn't conducted the survey and we didn't have that info.
So those, through the survey, those that were of
Yes. Yep. There was, people could see a definite benefit if those positions were there.
I've heard that from staff members directly as well.
Who all did the survey? Just staff?
It went out to all of the teaching staff.
So all the certified staff,
Yes.
or non-certified involved in it, or?
No, we sent it out to the certified staff.
Can we make a motion to
just offer secondary sub, elementary sub full-time?
Yeah, if that's what you wanna
was gonna
pursue,
say,
we
what's
can start
everyone's-
advertising for that.
I guess everyone's price is, you know, it is what it is.
Right, that's what I mean. I was gonna say, what's everyone's consensus on some of that stuff?
How do you
We can
establish
action some of this
salary on
stuff now, discuss the
It
rest
would-
of it later?
They would be on the salary schedule.
You would just
We'd start them at the BA0.
Just realizing that if funding runs out, that's something that
That we would have to deal with at that time.
But I would say if you wanna pursue it, we can start advertising for the elementary counselor, the elementary sub, and the secondary sub. We're already working on an option for the elementary interventionist.
Is that the
It
problem?
doesn't commit you to anything, but it gets the word out there and you can start trying to find people.
the two subs would probably cost something in the neighborhood of $100,000
Total.
Through 2024, correct?
Yeah, you mean the funding is there till 2024, correct? It depends on how much you spend, but
But you can figure that, I mean, LM has a sub in their elementary and their high school, you can figure out what, you can ask them what they pay, I don't know what they pay.
BA0, you think they just
Less.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's find
I'll
out.
call up there tomorrow and talk to Charles and see what they are doing.
Okay, were you gonna say something?
I was just gonna say, is that the best way to establish a cost estimate on a elementary, counselor? Is to advertise, so you know what level you'd have to pay, you know, cause they're not necessarily gonna come in at a BA0.
No, they won't. They'll come in with a higher level of education.
So is that,
or master probably. To me,
Yeah,
the subs are a different conversation than the counselor. mean,
No, I know, but
we're
I mean,
gonna
just
figure
to-
out how to fund the
just to establish
coaching
a-
here after a few years.
well, I'm just talking just to establish cost estimates, advertise for it, see what we get for candidates. Establish kind of where they're gonna need, where they're looking to pay, and then we can make the
That won't
decision.
hurt anything.
Yeah, that would just take that step.
The
Doesn't-
Just
subs to me
advertise.
are imperative, you know, what I'm hearing is the subs are imperative. There's a reason we had teachers covering more than one prep period, and it's because they had to.
Yep.
I mean,
Also, the interventionist is something we probably look at that too right now, because we're actively losing that position, aren't we?
Yep, and like I said, we have some things in the works that should fill that.
Okay. Interventionist.
Counselor, interventionists, and both subs.
What's the difference between a counselor and an interventionist?
Counselor well, I don't wanna speak for you, Kelsey, so if I'm wrong, you're gonna correct me. Your counselor is gonna deal with your mental health issues, and your interventionist is gonna deal more with your academic issues. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah, so counselors cover social, emotional, behavior, academic, and career. So those 5 components would lead up to my 5 components in high school.
And career.
Yes, we do have elementary stuff does our career.
Would you be willing to consider coming over to the elementary 1 day a week with a possibility of more job duties, possible additional pay using ESSER?
So I am not certified K-12. I'm certified 6-12. I'm certified 5-12. So I would have to go back and get my K-12 certification, which all I need is hours.
Okay.
I'd consider that. However, research shows that I'm full time. So to help band-aid it, sure.
Yeah, Band-Aid.
If we couldn't find anybody.
Yes, if you can't find anybody suitable,
Same
yes.
with a school resource officer, kind of all ones together.
Perfect world would be you'd find a full-time person if you do that, but if you can't,
Yes, what I
there are
consider
other
yes.
options.
Just because I know the kids need help, yes. But
Okay.
yeah,
You're
we're
talking about a full-time sub, are you talking somebody with a teaching degree or somebody with a substitute authorization?
Either.
That's what they can babysit.
What?
Somebody that can babysit.
Yeah, if it's a short call sub, meaning you're subbing 1 day in a different classroom or maybe even 2 days, but not an extended time, then the governor's proclamation still allows like someone with a para certification to sub.
So, what are we calling full-time? Are we needing them every day of the week? Are we gonna try to get someone for 3 days?
They would be busy every day of the week.
Okay.
They get full benefits.
Because they're, yep.
I think we need to find out what other neighboring school districts, I mean, we're gonna have to offer a little bit more than probably what neighboring districts are.
We'll gather that info.
To get them.
Yep. But again, never hurts to cast your net.
No, I think.
And we can do
that's-
that right now.
Yeah, I think we should.
Okay.
Personally.
Do we have to make a motion on anything like that? It's just information, we shouldn't have to do that.
No.
We know for sure the high bid items that we can take ESSER funds and use it for those items. It's
Correct.
proven in other schools.
Mhm.
I think we make it a computer program, I think, for tiered access, I think that's a no-brainer probably, if both, everybody wants that.
You said we're still waiting on bids on that, aren't we?
Right, I have one price, I have.
Oh, you only have one, okay.
Yep.
Then the other four just move to advertise them?
The staffing positions,
Yeah.
I mean, we'll post those tomorrow morning.
The subs we currently have, we have 2 active subs. Is that accurate right now? 3?
They'd be able to say,
Outside of the school district, there's basically 2, 3.
Jolene, North Robinson, who else? Steve Parker. Steve.
Yours is taking, she's in a long-term position.
Cheryl Stevens does that.
Stephen Parker's pretty
Selective.
But you don't know if they necessarily want full-time, they're just part-time sub, right?
Stephen Parker. He's retired.
Oh, yeah, yes. At the end of the day, and that's why we're gonna schedule a set the work session.
This was just to see if we wanted to move forward with anything tonight, right now.
I'd say
But we'll
the
get
things
those
that-
positions.
The things in black continue to get costs.
We'll discuss the others.
I mean, I don't have an issue with offering, as soon as we know the rate, I don't think we have to do it tonight, offering at least the subs, our current people that sub here, offer them full-time. With an agreed rate.
Right, and that would take board action, what the actual rate would be.
But are we gonna be picking from the same pot? Do we need them doing what they're doing plus full-time subs? Or do we just need full-time subs? I mean, does that make sense? I mean, are you gonna be poaching one to
Well, it
gain
doesn't
the
sound
other?
like you're gaining anything from a standpoint of bodies, because I think the subs we've got now are here almost all the time.
If you put it out there that we're looking, they have the opportunity to apply or to say they're interested.
Yeah, that's why
I mean, that's how I would look at it, but they may not even be interested in that, so it's a moot point at that,
My issue is if we don't do something right now, the next meeting, school's gonna be over with. And if they need help right now for the rest of the year, I think we need to move on decently quick if the subs want full-time employment.
We're talking for 22, 23
You're talking,
contract year though. I don't think we're talking for this year, are we?
I don't see what we're trying.
Just do a prorated amount.
Well, once again, I think we've all agreed we're gonna move forward with getting the jobs advertised, and then I guess when you said, do we need additional versus what we've already got, I would get the advertised out for the additional, and then how the subs we have now, how often are they in school now? Are they there every day, all day, pretty much? Or is it hit and miss, just depending on?
If they're not available, we'll have a retirement, so they don't wanna take any classroom positions because they're not comfortable with it.
Yeah, like Cheryl's with it, she was there like today, but she told me that she's been limited because she had some health issues, and her mom was here from visiting in Florida, so I mean, there's times where you think you've had somebody fill it, they're not, so.
Okay, well, I think, I understand what you're saying, Brandon, get them nailed down right now, get them here every
And if they
day.
need to, for summer school, well, the next vote would be in the middle of May, and you had 11 days left.
We're still, but if we scheduled a special meeting and we've got people who are lined up, we could take care
Yeah,
of that.
it depends on when we do that, I guess.
And we're still kind of presenting this to them by putting it out there, and making them aware of it, so.
I
we
guess
have
if
to
you
do a
got any
step forward.
takers that come to you in the next couple of days, we can move forward quicker on that.
Mm-hmm.
And then leave it open
for some new people coming.
Yeah,
in
you wanna
town.
get a set price and compete with other schools,
Yeah.
like you guys were saying, absolutely.
All right, so,
Yep.
we need to, well, we don't need to really make a motion or anything tonight. You just kind of as to what you need to do, or do you need to set that as a motion?
We have guidance moving forward. I would say the next step is look at that special meeting.
It's for the special time.
Yes.
The after-school programming and the enrichment program, even though they're kind of down, I mean, that's something I'd like to see us spend a little bit of time.
Yeah.
I did too on both of those.
Yep, absolutely.
Anything we can do, enrichment. I mean,
Yeah, we're still gonna work on getting dollar figures for this too. Absolutely.
Anything for the industrial tech program too, yeah, we need some stuff in there.
Well, and that's as big, the after-school is probably as big, like you said, finding a teacher or somebody that wants to help staff it as it is getting the kids.
Yeah.
But we've got the money, I mean, we can compensate well to do it.
So I would suggest you schedule a special meeting, you look at the week of April 24th.
What night is that?
April 27th would be the Wednesday. Yeah, I said the
You wanna
week
have
of the
a meeting
24th.
on Sunday?
Nah, well, I mean,
That's prime planning.
I know.
You know the old saying, rains on Easter Sunday, it will rain the next seven Sundays in a row.
They keep bouncing, they can't make up their mind if it's going to or not.
No, thought it snowed, not just rain, snow.
I'd be free on the
26th?
What time?
Well, now we're looking at the 26th.
I just heard Brandon say 26. What else?
That's a Tuesday.
What'd you say?
27th.
27?
I had said the
I don't,
27th.
I'll try to make everything I can.
Trick.
27.
Golf meeting Monday.
I just know there's a track, Wednesday girls track, and Thursday girls track and soccer.
That'd be good, either night, later would be better.
You go on later.
7.
Is there a day that works better for you?
Tuesday's probably better for me, but whatever the consensus is.
I'm good on Wednesday.
Are you good on Tuesday as well?
I could make Tuesday work also.
I'm good either way, later the better, that's all I can say.
5.
Tuesday at 4:30.
I was thinking 9:30 to 10.
Okay. There's track meets that night on Tuesday,
On
but
Tuesday.
if
Or 5.
that works for you guys, I'll rearrange my schedule.
I am too.
Tuesday at 7 o'clock.
I mean, if you're thinking 7, it'll be, I can be back.
Time good for you, Brandon?
Yeah, that would be.
So that's the 26th.
So the 26th at 7 o'clock.
Regular board meeting was
Not until May 11th.
Yeah.
Awesome.
How many estimates do you think you can get before that?
As many as we possibly can.
2 weeks.
Yep.
Okay, so,
Okay.
was it motion? A motion second for April 26th, 7 p.m.?
I think Dave moved it.
Motion.
Dave, motion seconded, set date and time for special meeting, April 26th, 7 p.m. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign, motion passes. Item P, we've already set the date and time, which will be May 11th at 7 p.m.
Yep.
So, as long as everybody, I'll take another motion for that one. You do another motion?
Yeah.
Moved and seconded for May 11th, 7 p.m. next meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign, motion passes. Considerations to set date and time for 22 budget amendment public hearing.
We'll do this in conjunction with the calendar public hearing, we'll do them back to back, but given the ESSER funds were received by the government retention and a few other projects we've done or going to do, we're gonna need to do a budget amendment, and I need to have time to figure out what that amendment's going to be. So I'll have that to you well in advance of when I publish it, and action tonight, just to amend the budget.
And it's a procedural.
Yeah, no increase in taxes or anything, it's just keeping us in compliance to with what we published, trying to keep our spending limits underneath those. So I guess you need a motion for that same.
Yep. So moved. Motion and seconded for, once again, May 11th, 7 p.m. Huh?
Need a second, I didn't hear.
Second. He seconded. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Motion to adjourn. So moved. Moved and seconded. We're adjourned. Thank you for coming.
Well, I guess we didn't write together, did we?